Welcome to Ring the Damn Bell. And man, oh man, do I have a show for you guys tonight. But before we get into it and before I introduce my guests, I want to remind everybody that on Friday, May 16th at 10 a.m. starts FanFest 3. And man, you guys want to buy tickets because I'm telling you, this thing is going to sell out.
Yeah.
There are so many legends that's going to be there. The Rock and Roll Express, Baby Doll, Tito Santana. I mean, I could go on and on and on. So get your tickets now. And let me tell you what's great about this, though. Say, like me, you're going with your significant other that doesn't like professional wrestling. Guess what? Because this event is actually being held at the Hilton where you're going to be staying at, that means, guys, or women or ladies, you can go and enjoy the event. And if your partner just needs to take a break from it or want to go do their own thing, they can do that. And you don't have to worry about waiting for a ride for her to pick you up or nothing like that because you're staying at the Hilton as well. This event, the planning has been so well thought out. So again, go to sicw.org and get your tickets today. Now, I want to introduce someone that I tell you over a very short amount of time, I've come to call a friend. He is a gentleman that is one of the top professional wrestlers within the indie scenes, none other than Big Joe Helms. What's going on, my friend?
Oh, not much, man. Just enjoying my Friday night before I have to hit the highway for the weekend and try to make it back for Easter.
Yeah, I get it. And look, the name of this podcast is called Different Faces, the Joe Helms interview. And the reason why I titled it this way, and Joe doesn't even know why. Actually, I haven't even told him why. Is because when I met Joe, man, there's just something that I think we clicked and we talk a lot. Now, when you
Yeah,
if you see Joe in the ring, man, he looks like this monster and he just dominates. This is a guy that you see that you're like, shit, I don't want to run into this guy in a dark alley anywhere. But then you get to
yeah,
know him, and he is the nicest guy I think you can ever meet. Hence the title, Different Faces of Joe Helms. Um,
yeah.
so man, let's get right into it. I'm going to mention a name to you, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. Um, uh, Taylor Thomas, I believe his name is, or Terry Thomas. Let me
Oh,
get a
yeah. Terry Thompson.
yeah, Terry Thompson. That's it. What's the first thing you think of?
Dad, wrestling dad is what I think of. Um, yeah, he was actually Terry the Thrill Seeker Zeller out in the Independents, and he was what they called a jobber back in the day for the WWF. That guy is my trainer, one of my trainers. I have multiple. Jason Jones out of Mid States is another one that's been working with me in the ring, and Gary Roosevelt Graham. Yeah, but Terry, yeah, that's my wrestling dad. We talk a
Yeah.
lot too, man.
And before we get into that journey, I want to go back into your childhood. How old were you when you very first started watching professional wrestling? Like, when was the first time you really felt that emotion from watching
Well,
that?
this is hilarious because I was a big He-Man fan, okay, as a lot of us were back in the 80s. And I vaguely remember lining up all of my He-Man figures on mom and dad's coffee table. I had about 17 or 20. It wasn't a day that we didn't go to Walmart. I had to cry and have the next one. And TV was on behind me. And pro wrestling was on. I didn't know at the time. I was probably like what, 7, maybe 8, if that. Um, and I heard them that, well, this was the time that when Bobby Heenan was actually wrestling at the time. He had the black one strap on, and I heard He-Man, and I thought they said He-Man. So my brain went to, oh, what is this? And so I turned around and boom, there was professional wrestling. and I was glued. Like, what's going on here, Um, and it took a while before I really got into the professional wrestling. A little later on in life,
Mhm.
my brother-in-law reintroduced it to me. Through all the great WrestleManias of the.
Right. And a lot of people, I don't know if they realize this or not, but professional wrestling wasn't the first sport that you got into. You actually played football in school, and then you played arena football, and you're
Yeah,
actually breaking records for arena football. I think you started
yeah.
124 times, something like that, which was
Oh, no. 154 consecutive starts
there
in
you go.
15 years. Yeah,
Right.
before I shelled a meniscus and had to have it
Well,
fixed. I call
but
it a flat tire.
you starting that many times though, that is like records setting, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
Yep, yep.
yeah. They gave me a plaque for the 150 record, but I went on to 154 before my knee locked up and I couldn't start the game. And I was still going to try to play with it, but they were like, "Nah, dude, you did enough,"
Well,
And it was
before
a
you
record.
go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, it was a record for the most in uh, arena and semi-pro history. So, not to mention that year our team was setting North America scoring records.
Wow. Now, before that injury that kind of shuts you down a little bit, your team, you guys won 4 championships, correct?
Oh, so in my career of 15, I have won five. Uh, three with a team in Joplin, and then when I left them after 5 years, came to Springfield and won two more before I went into pro wrestling.
Now, I know your story. I've listened to your story about how you got into professional wrestling, which I absolutely love.
Yeah,
Um,
it's pretty amazing.
but I want to hear from you. Tell everyone exactly how you got into professional wrestling.
Okay, so as time went on with or kept getting this feeling every year, I was like, man, I'll get out there in the field, I'm ready to go, but I'm like, why am I still doing this? I would start asking my questions. Like, can keep doing this if I want to, but it's the same thing over and over and over. I start, every year it's either I break a finger or dislocate a finger. Never had any real serious injuries other than the ACL and the meniscus on the other knee, things like that. Never really broke any bones or nothing like that. Um, and I just kept going myself, why do I keep doing this? Like, I mean, it's fun, but at the end of the day, I've won all these championships. Like, what else is there for me to do? I'm just getting bored, like mentally too. And my last year, I was at the gym and I left and I pulled over at the park and I said, God, I said, I really don't want to play. Like, I can keep going if I want to because I'm fine, but it's just not there for me anymore. And I said, God, whatever it is that you have in store for me, let's go, let's do it right now because I feel like I have more in the tank. I feel like I have more to give. I could just, stop doing the football and go into building classic cars like I did in my spare time and just be a regular person. But I just kept saying, I'm not a regular person. There's something more there to give. I just know it. And whatever it is. And so that very next weekend was Father's Day weekend. And my son and I was going to go to a show in Republic, Missouri, and watch pro wrestling for Father's Day weekend. Okay, and so I got out of the gym and I messaged him, and he ended up not wanting to go or something, and I almost did not go. Very, very, like, I mean, almost didn't go. And I was like, you know what? I haven't been to an independent show in a long time, and I didn't know that they were around me that close where I lived at. And I was like, I'm just going to go treat myself. The heck with it. And so I went and I got the very last front row seat and I went in there, got my pizza and my Sprite. I'll never forget any of this, all the way down to every little tiny piece. And I sit down with my pizza and my soda on the front row. And I look up and everybody's staring at me. And I mean, everybody, the security, some guy over here, this big dude over here, and the guy on the other side of the railing started laughing at me. And he goes, you look like you should be one of the guys over here on this side of the ring, you know, and everybody was chuckling, laughing. And I was like, whatever, you know. And as the show went on, I kept looking around and I had people's eyes beaming at me through the whole show. And turns out that it was Thompson, Terry Zeller, which was their general manager, eyeballing me, and all the security. And later on, come to find out that they thought I was a plant from another promotion sent there to cause disruption or something like that at the show. And I'm just like, I'm just me coming here to watch the show. I thought maybe I was on candid camera or something. And I'm like, why is everybody staring at me? And so about the intermission time, I got up to get something else to drink, and I walked over to the guy that I bought the last ticket from. I didn't know he was the promoter at the time. And I went over and I shook his hand and I said, hey, I was like, my name is Joe Helms. I was like, I'm having a great time. I was like, this is really, really good. You're doing a good job, you know. And he thanked me, whatever. And I went and got my soda and I went and sat back down. And, you know, I finished watching the show and went home. And the very next day was Sunday, Father's Day. I'm at the gym working out and I'm talking to my buddies at the gym. I'm like, man, I went to this wrestling show. I had a great time, man. It's like, I didn't know that they were real close. No more than I was talking about that. I got a message on my phone. This is crazy how like the whole, you know, everything is just, you know, the direction of my life was going. Cause it was like, I was talking about it and then bam, I got a message at the same time. And it was the promoter from the company. And he goes, hey, he goes, I didn't realize who you were, but once we found out who you were, how would you like to be a special guest in our 15-man battle royal, August 28th? And I was like, ever since I was a 12-year-old kid, yes. And so I literally had probably, because Terry was going on his cruises like he likes to do, and he wasn't around a whole lot. So I literally had about 2 weeks worth of training before I stepped into the ring for the first time, like for that show.
And how old were you?
43, I think.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked that, and excuse me for interrupting, we'll pick up where I interrupt you at was, you know, there's, especially with men, you know, once we hit a certain age, a lot of times we'll give up on our dreams. You know, we're too old for that. You know, we can't do that anymore. You are a walking testament
Oh,
that
dude,
there's no such thing as you can't. Doesn't matter how old you are.
Right.
So go ahead.
Well, they used to call me the anomaly in football because I just kept going. They called me the juggernaut because I looked like the juggernaut out on the field, and I just destroyed people. My whole goal was to move every man on that field against their will where I wanted to. You know, that was my goal, and that was what I did. I was walking, you know, cracking concrete. I was 320. At one point, I was 325 pounds.
Wow.
You know, and I was benching way more than that, and I was the center. And in arena football, there's only three. It's 3-on-3, mano and mano. So I walked on that field knowing for a fact that I was putting in more work than that guy in front of me. And so anything you want. And I had like 15 out of 15 years. I actually had, it was like 16 or 17 all-star games under my belt because I was invited to national all-star games outside of our leagues. So I'm highly decorated in all of that. But you know, they called me an anomaly, and I just don't stop. And you know, Terry even said, he said, I knew as soon as you stepped in that ring that you was going to be a professional wrestler. And I was like, well, I mean, it's kind of funny because as kids we do the backyard crap, you know, and we're out. When I was little, you know, we would gather mattresses off the side of the street, and we'd put the mattress together, make our own makeshift rings, and we would battle each other in the backyard, you know, and make championship belts out of cardboard and and tote them around. And what we were doing, and after I realized after training, and I thought back on it, was we were actually calling matches and not realizing what we were doing. And so whenever I started training, everything came to me real easy. Now, I'm not going to say training in professional wrestling is easy, because by God, it's not. Because I remember day one when I stepped into training, and I was still training arena football and going and training in the ring for 5 hours on Saturday. 2 hours of football in the morning, go home, shower, 5 hours in the ring Saturday and Sunday. Because if I was going to do it, I was going to be 100%, or I wasn't going to do it. I'm not going to get out there and make myself look like a fool. Because I had told everybody on the football field, "Hey, I'm leaving football, and I'm going to be a professional wrestler," and they thought I was crazy.
Now let me stop you right there because you mentioned something. You talked about football practice and then the wrestling. Now there's something that's called being in ring shape, and a lot of people don't
Yeah.
realize that. A lot, you're out. People would think, well, you're out there, you're playing football, a lot of cardio, so you could naturally should be able to get inside the ring and just go. But that's not necessarily true. So explain to people about being in shape, in wrestling shape, ring shape.
Okay, so I'm a 5 to 6 day a week gym guy. Okay, because I wanted, with my age, I wanted to stay on top of that guy in front of me. And so with the football and everything, you go as hard as you can at it for like 6 seconds, and then you're back in the huddle. 6 seconds back in the huddle. Car wreck, car wreck, car wreck, car wreck, back in the huddle. Um, with professional wrestling, your whole body is moving all the time. You're constantly going. I remember when I got in there for that first full day, and I remember that I was so exhausted. It is not the same. You can't, I don't care if you're a basketball player. I don't care if you run track. I don't care what you do outside of professional wrestling. Once you step in that ring, it's a different ball game, because one, you have, when they say ring psychology, it's not just knowing the moves. It's remembering how to hit the ropes correctly, step correctly, keep your I call it partner safe in the ring. That's number one. Okay. And do the things that you're really good at, so you keep everybody safe, and then work on the things you're not so great at. So, I mean, everything exerts serious energy, not to mention the mental aspect of it. So you're not just mentally drained, you're physically drained, emotionally drained, because you're getting barked at all day of you're not doing that right, do it this way. I remember that first day going home and falling into my bed, because I got up at like 6 and did 2 hours of football, like with the pads, full pads for 2 hours, then go home, shower, and then hit the ring for 5 hours, exerting my body. I remember laying in the bed, not being able to move, asking my son to bring me something to eat and drink, because I literally could not move. But I went right back the next day,
So
Sunday, again on Sunday, holidays. It's called, sacrificing. It was holidays. I remember uh, New Year's Day, we were in the ring training. You know what I'm saying? No days off.
so tell me, was there something whenever you were training that you struggled with that took you a bit to be able to either adapt to or to do it correctly?
No,
Wow.
uh, because what happened was Terry, he couldn't take the bumps and things as you would as a trainer training people. And he trusted me with the students because of how strong I was. Okay. When you're benching almost 450 pounds and you're coming in doing all this stuff, and you're
Right.
proving, my goal was to impress them every day that I came in there. So when I went home, I not just went home and trained in the gym. I went home and studied film. And so when I came in, Terry'd be like, okay, you're going to give hip tosses to everybody, and they're going to learn to take them. You're giving chops. You're suplexing everybody. Of course, I had to learn to take those too, but he had enough faith in me that he would tell me what to do, and I would show the students. So I was basically training them.
Mhm.
It was my body, his brain.
Right.
You see what I mean? And I already had like a knowledge of it because I used to do a lot of backyard stuff when I was a kid. I just hadn't did it in like 20 years. So
Mhm.
when he would say, "Hey, do this and this and this," I would try it the first time, and if I didn't get it right, I was like, "Okay, explain it to me one more time," and then bam, I had it. That's the way my brain works. Like again, not everybody has that mentality. I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm not saying that I'm the best in the world. I'm not saying I'm the greatest in sliced bread, but I try to do the best I can no matter where I go. So every week it was how can I study something, come back and impress the hell out of Terry. I wanted to impress him. I wanted to impress him. That was my goal every week.
So tell me about your first match. Uh, was your nerves getting to you? Did you feel just comfortable instantaneously? Did- Walk me through that.
I was a mess. Um, Stage fright like heck. Okay. And everybody's like, how? You played arena football in front of like 5,000 people all the time. And I was like, yeah, but in football, you have a helmet on and
Hmm.
it's a team sport. Professional wrestling, they're watching you. All eyes are on you. And so I was so nervous about, are they going to like me? Are they going to accept me? Um, um, am I going to screw up? Do I need to remember the things I'm supposed to remember that I'm kind of been being taught in training? And do I tap into that what I used to do as a kid and bring that into what I'm doing? So yes, I was a nervous mess as I was about to go out, and this was before the silverback thing even came around. Okay, we were kind of diddling with what I wanted to create, and it was basically it was the football player coming in. Terry brought in. I went out and I found there's a promo online somewhere. I went out and brought in the best that I could find out in Missouri or blah 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 whatever, and I brought in Big Joe Helms, arena football star, blah blah blah. That was the whole selling point of it. I've actually got my first poster up here on the wall here with
Right.
Slamfest one, and it's got me in the football uniform, advertising me, and I was standing behind the curtains about to come out, about to be introduced, and Terry walks up behind me laughing. I could never forget it. He's like this. He goes, "You're nervous, ain't you?" And I go, "Just a little bit." And he's like, "Shake it out." He's like, "Shake it out. Jump up and down and shake it out. It's going to be okay, man. Just shake it out. You'll be okay." And it yeah, and when I went out there, when they called my name or whatever, my music hit for me to come out for this battle royal. It was my turn. This place, and I put sunglasses on because I was so uh stage had so much stage fright. I wanted to put sunglasses on so it was almost like a shield to kind of help me mentally with it.
Hmm.
And when I come through those curtains, the eruption from the crowd was so huge. I was like, I was taken back at the same time, and I felt that relief of, all right, these people have my back.
Hmm.
These people are here to see me. This is okay. This is a good thing. And trust me, it took me, and this is probably a question you was going to ask, how long did it take for me to get comfortable? It took me
Hmm.
about 100 matches to get comfortable
Wow.
to where I would actually look real, because slowly I would. Tag team matches was a little easier for me to get comfortable and talk to the crowd and kind of you know work myself with the crowd to kind of
Mhm.
my character or whatever. But it took me about 100 matches to where I was so comfortable that I could just react in the ring, look to the crowd, feel the crowd, pull the crowd in, do some things, and then really start developing me.
Right. So tell me about your ring gear that I love, by the way.
Which one?
Well, it's the ring gear that it literally looks like you took the Road Warriors and you took Van Vader, Big Van Vader's gear and merged them together. And
Yeah,
here you're walking out with the mask and the spikes on
yeah,
the
yeah.
pads. Um, where did that inspiration for that gear come from?
Okay, so Now, I'm going to tell you this, both of my characters that I play are actually things from my life, and that is why I do them so well. And they say in professional wrestling, you need to come up with a character that's something from your life so you believe in it solidly and you can be that character. Okay. So, on the side of playing arena football, I coached youth football as well as an offensive line coach. And we were the Raiders youth
Okay.
organization. Do you see where I'm going with
Yep.
this?
Yep.
Okay. So I
Yep.
coached them, I coached in the 6 championships, and my son was on one of the teams. I coached him, and I coached him and all the way down to play at Dallas Cowboy Stadium in
Wow.
Dallas, AT&T Stadium, which was
Right.
phenomenally fun. Um, so I used to take my game shoulder pads and I would dress up like a mascot for them and coach the team at the same time. So these little kids would be all looking up at me like, "Yeah, that's our mascot and
Right.
our coach." And they would have this feel like they had this backing, and then they started expecting me to do it all the time.
Mhm.
And so that's what I did. And so they would call me Raider Joe all the time. And so when I got into the wrestling, I had showed them some of that I did, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you need to do that." But at the time, I was like, "Man, I really don't want to try to steal anything away from the Road Warriors. I kind of want to do my own thing." And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I can evolve this. I kept studying, and people say, take things and make it your own. Take this
Right.
and that and make it your own. And I was like, okay, since that's the rules, I'm going to follow the rules, and I'm going to take from here, take from there. I'm going to mesh it. I'm going to evolve it, and we're going to come out with a final product at some point. And that's what I did. And it was okay, but it was missing. And so after I left ICWF, um, I was training at Mid States for a while, left there, and I trained with them for a long time. And it gave me a chance to go back to the drawing board and recreate the silverback some more. And so that was when Jason helped. We'll go into that in a minute. But so basically, what the silver did was, I had a guy make these shoulder pads for me, and it's like an apocalyptic look, and this mask. Um, the pants are an exact pattern from the Road Warriors. Not a lot of people know that, but I sent that pattern in because I wanted the old school look, because I looked generally like I could have come out of the 80s or 90s and been one of those wrestlers.
Right. Right.
Um, that was my goal because I'm trained to wrestle old school, big man style, but I wanted to learn to chain. And everybody's like, why you want to learn to chain? You're supposed to wrestle big man style. I'm like, why can't I learn everything? Because if I the ring, I'm going to want to know how to do these things to get out of them and actually make the match work. So I want to be a rounded wrestler, not just one sided. And I just, it's one of those where I want more and more and more. And so I made I had the pants made. And so what I did is not, I've had one man notice that the diamond symbol that looks like a diamond symbol down one side is actually a Road Warrior symbol from the early 2000s.
Oh
And I
wow.
had
Nice.
one fan, hey, isn't that? And I was like, yes, thank you. And then I put the gorilla on the other side. And the reason for the gorilla was the last football team that I played with, the Queen City Insane. Our mascot was a silverback gorilla, and that was our symbol on our football pants, on our helmets. And they gave me the okay to use that, and I was like, perfect. I love that emblem, so let's go with that. And so that's how the silverback got created. The weight belt is a Hulk Hogan thing.
Right.
I'm a big fan of Hogan, and Vader, the big guys. Those were the guys that really drew me in. Um, so that the belt thing is just kind of a Hulk Hogan thing. When he had the Hollywood,
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, I like the weight belt because I am a lifter. I have a 45-pound weight thing I always wear. I've worn it every match I've had. and it's got like scriptures and things on it, and so it's things in my life that I'm trying to put through to in my character.
Right. So you
And
also
then
play another. Go ahead.
oh well, and then you've seen where I've evolved into the red silverback, which has not came out yet.
Right. Well, my question is, so you've also played a character called the Hired Gun, right?
Yes, sir.
So
Yeah, I worked with the had the hired gun.
my question is who's the what is the difference between the Hired Gun and the Silverback?
Okay, so let me dive into the hired gun a little bit. So that character is all my life as well. I worked in a gentleman's club for about 6 years, and we had to dress nice in there. And the owner, uh, John, who had passed away, he dressed a lot like that. He was from Detroit. He was kind of like a mafia guy in a way, and a lot of people said I looked just like him. And would dress, and the way I dress as the hired gun is exactly the way I dressed at the gentleman's club. And people would get mad when I wouldn't show up there and dress that way. So it was like I had to do it. And so whenever I went down to Mid States and was training, I pulled Jason to the side after a while. I was like, "Hey, look, Jason, I would love to work for you, and I promise you, I would give you everything I have and work really hard for you." Left it at that. Left him and kept training. He come to me. He says, "Look, I've got this big charity show through February." He said, "I'm short on heels." He goes, "Would you be open to playing a heel?" And I was like, "Yeah, what's your idea?" And he goes, because I'd never worked heel at the time. Well, he said, "I'm thinking of this Big Bubba Rogers, Mr. Hughes type character." And I
Mm,
looked at him, smile, and I go, "Oh, I got you something." And so I developed my hired gun character. And time I went down to Mid States, my first match with that. I came in and it was just Big Joe Helms and Stephen E, my manager at the time, because I told him, I said, "I only do it unless you make Stephen E my manager." And he's probably the best manager out there, period, hands down. Okay. And I've had my feuds with him. And so I come out there and the fans don't know what to think because they see me. He's calling me his insurance policy, his hired gun, so to speak. He kept, I was like, "I got to come up with something. I got to come up with something." And I went out there, and when I destroyed the face that they had out there, was one of their favorite faces. When I destroyed him out there in the ring, they started cheering for me as a heel.
wow.
They were like, "What is going on?" And we went to the back, and Steven looked at me and he goes, "What the hell was that?" I said, "I don't know. I, I just beat up their face. They're good guy, and they're loving it. So I don't understand it." And so I kept thinking about it. And I said, "You know what? I'm just going to call myself the hired gun and run with it." And then I evolved that character too, to where, like, when my finisher is called the payout choke slam, where I completely lay down with them. It looks like a rock bottom, but it's not. It's a choke slam from way up here, and I bring you down through the ring. And it was the payout, which I still
Right.
use as the silverback as well. And then I developed where, when I was done with the match, I'd pull a business card out of my pocket. It says the hired gun on it, and I'd slide it in their belt and pat them on the belly and then walk away, or step on them as I'm walking away or something like that. Leave my calling card, because with the hired gun, it can go either way. If you're going to pay me to do something to a bad guy, cool, give me the money. If you're going to pay me something to do something, against a good guy, cool, pay me the money. Who's got the money? You know what I'm saying? And that ties into what's the difference between the two characters.
Hmm.
Well, really nothing, because it depends on what you want. Do you want the hired gun to go do a job for you? Or does the silverback just going to go off on his own tangent and do what he wants? Because that I work, I'm a face as the silverback. Very rarely do I get to play heel as a silverback. Hired gun has mainly just been heel because mafia ties. You look at him as a bad guy. But they love me as a both everywhere I go, so it's really insane. And I try to be a bad guy, but they love. I think they just love the destruction that I can do,
Mhm.
that's possible with what I do, and they like the intensity and just the power and all that junk. So I mean, it just really depends on what you want, or the mood set. Maybe I'll show up as the hired gun and do something pro bono just because I want to, beat on someone. It just there's so much you can do with the characters.
Right. Now, do you prefer playing a heel or do you prefer playing a baby face?
That's a tough one because at one time I was like, man, I don't know if I can play heel because I love the little kids so much. I don't know if I could be mean to them. I just feel so bad. And I remember a time when Mid States went to Kansas and we did a show in front of Special Olympics. The Special Olympics, I was the hired gun. And I come out there and I'm a bad guy. I'm a heel. And these kids are trying to put their hands out to me and I'm like, being mean to them and stuff. And the whole time in my mind, I'm going to hell. I'm going to hell. Feeling so bad because like, my uncle, he had Down syndrome. He was Olympics. He's a Special Olympian too, and he
Mhm.
passed away, bless his soul. And, my heart goes out to him and I'm like, oh, this hurts so bad deep down, but I have to do my job, at the same time. Um, the second time we went down there, I had evolved into the silverback and they loved it. And it was like 13 that I've worked in front of that I know of at this point. And I ended up making the cover of the newspaper down there with them and everything. And it was pretty fantastic. I love those kids. So
Yeah. So now, as great as professional wrestling is for you, your you know dreams coming true. There's also the bad side of yeah. There's also the bad side of professional wrestling, that could really take a hold of your mental health. It could be a fan turning into a dangerous type fan, or personal relationships from within professional wrestling, where
mhm,
someone is so desperate for attention, and for that spotlight to be on them that they can go after and even try to ruin careers.
mhm.
And I know you've been dealing with some of that. And by the way, guys, before we get into it, I'm not surprising Joe with this question. He kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit, so he knows that was we were going to eventually go here per his request. Rightfully so. Um, how has things been going? I again, I know you've been dealing with a lot of stuff that can really wreak havoc on your mental health.
Yeah, I've been dealing with some stuff mentally and emotionally. I've been accused of things that aren't true. I'm collecting all the things that I need to collect for taken care of. It's accused of things that aren't true because I have all the evidence that I need. I'm being bullied, basically, cyber bullied. My fans are being stalked. Um, my promotions are basically being stalked. Anybody that I get a booking with, they get hounded. Uh, and the thing is I've never been talked to by police. I've never been charged with anything. Period. And I've lost about probably a little over $10,000 in bookings so far. Uh, you know, I've got some shows, some people. I've explained the things that has been happening, and they're like, screw them, just keep pushing forward, and that's what I keep doing. You know, I got a great uh, that support me. I got an amazing woman in my life that has helped me mentally through this because I'll tell you straight up, I was in a very, very dark place at one point. and some of us get there. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to turn. I felt like my whole world was shutting down, and it's first place. But at some point, you know, uh, she saw it and reached out, and bless her heart, she brought me out of that, and I just I've been quiet. People understand this, that I've been quiet and just letting things be said, because they say, oh, your character will shine through, but you can only say that for so much when you start losing bookings. I went to Florida and to Tampa and did a show down there and blew the place away, and I at a live signing, and they tried to get into that and ruin that with me. But bless his heart, Emil down there, I want to thank him for bringing me in regardless of the situation. He knew it, and he was like, come down here, you need a vacation, let me get you booked on this show and get your face down here and get seen. And that opened up a whole nother world with me, because now I'm talking with with Gary Wolf, and I'll be working with Gary Wolf at some point, because he's trying to start a promotion down there as well, him and Bill Alfonso. um I ran into Midian down there, and he watched me and my best friend Ato's match. We ended up having a dark match that wasn't scheduled, because the guy that I was supposed to wrestle, they didn't communicate, so I didn't have a match. So thank God I brokered that for my best friend, to where my pay went to his trip to come down with me. And we ended up having a dark match, and it was amazing. It was an amazing match, which it sucks because I only have a small piece of it, and I'm still hoping that I can get the video, but some cameras were busted that night, so I don't know that I'll get it. Anytime I'm somewhere, like, okay, so yesterday I lost a booking yesterday with the Boys and Girls Club in Little Rock. And I was kind of upset about it, but I get it at the same time, that people want to protect themselves. The accusations, not allegations, accusations of a sick individual that wanted to ride my coattails into the professional wrestling business. Okay, wants to do these things to me. I'm a Boys and Girls Club member. I grew up at the Boys and Girls Club, because this hurts me deeply, because I take pride into doing shows at places like that, because I was a club kid. I don't blame them for wanting to, you know, try to do damage control on something like that, because it's a serious thing. Um, but at the same time, they should have had my back and said, "Hey, look, I know Joe. I've looked in his background. There's nothing there. There's nothing solid concrete whatsoever." And remove me. But then you gotta look at, okay, look at where you're at with your promotion, and look at who I'm booked with. You know, if they believe in me, why can't you? You know, and
Yeah.
so bless everybody that's sticking up for me. I've got quite a few out there that are still sticking up for me. They believe me. They know me. They just know how I am. I live here in this house. My daughter lives here with 3 of my 8 grandkids, and she's going through domestic violence right now. And before I left to go down to Arkansas Friday, the kid's dad tried to kick the front door in. I had just left to leave. I had to turn around and come back, to make sure my family was okay. And it's not acceptable. Domestic violence is not acceptable. But what else is not acceptable is making up crap and trying to ruin somebody's life because you're scorned. You know, it's ridiculous, and it needs to stop. Because if it doesn't stop, the proper repercussions of everyone, and I say everyone involved, because you know when you have people making videos on TikTok about you, yeah, I have all of that. They'll be talked to and dealt with. I have, anytime something's been said about me, I have it all. So even when they're trying to recruit people because they don't want to say something because they're afraid of getting in trouble, and they recruit these people to attack and basically bully and do the work for her, it's the same thing, guys. So stop it, cut it out. You don't see me getting on anywhere bashing anybody. I'm not bashing anybody right now. I'm not going to, because I'm above that. I'm a professional, you know. And not to mention the fact, and it's nothing on you because they came on there and bashed me on your show,
Mhm.
but don't go on there and say, "Oh, I'm a professional wrestler for 2.5 years," when you've never trained a day in your life. You won't go train. People's offered you to go train. Stop lying. You're not a professional wrestler. You're untrained. Get it right. You know, Promotions, please stop booking untrained people because someone's going to get hurt, you know, and it's just sad, man, because I mean, you've seen the match and I've seen the match. It's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. It's a dog turd. And so, you know, it hurts. It breaks me down. I've sat here and, not to, make people feel sorry for me, but man, I went through so much depression, so much pain. And, even when I lost, this booking yesterday, other people took it harder than I did because I'm like, I'm going after the big promotions. These little ones, it's okay that they get scared because they don't have firepower like the bigger ones do. But other than that, I'm doing great mentally. My life is going great. I'm still training, I'm still wrestling, and this isn't going to stop me. Okay, this isn't going to stop me. I'm going to roll till the wheels fall off. But yeah, I mean,
And you look great as
dude,
well. You look
I'm
like you've
trying.
trimmed down, and I mean, yeah, you look magnificent. And real quick, since you brought up that this person was on my show, just for the people out there, don't bother to try to go look for it. That I have since deleted that show. I won't mention names. But
Yeah,
what I will say is to you, Joe, is that and to the fans that's watching this as well, that a lot of respectable people in the industry, and I mean extremely respectable people,
yeah.
immediately came to bat for you, my friend.
Well, I appreciate that. I
So
appreciate everybody that's went to bat for me because it's really sad that Joe Helms, the wrestler, is being attacked. Okay, Joe Helms, the wrestler, is being attacked, not the personal man that you're talking to right now, but Joe Helms, the father, Joe Helms, the son, Joe Helms, the uncle, the brother, the grandfather of 8 children, grandfather of 8 kids. Okay, 8 grandkids.
whew,
You're not attacking that, but you want to attack my career. Doesn't make any sense to me. There wasn't a problem until I moved on and got in a relationship. There wasn't a problem. It's a scorn situation, and I've moved on from it. And I'm going to keep moving on from it. And I'm not going to my Facebook and bashing nobody because I'm a professional.
yeah,
So, I feel like I've said what I needed to say. If people want to believe what's being said, I'm sorry for you guys, man, because you're misinformed. You're hurting somebody that's done nothing wrong. You want to post pictures and say that these bruises are from me. I took the photos. I took those pictures. That's from you training at New Breed, bouncing off the ropes. Plenty of witnesses. You even posted about it, and then you want to post saying that I did that to you. Come on, let's go. Not to mention
now
the fact, yeah, not to mention the fact that I have to get blood work every year for Oklahoma and Missouri. You know, where's the accusations of having hepatitis C and having dirty blood? That's ridiculous. I've did two blood tests since February. I did one in February and I just did one last week so my license can be up to date. So I mean, come on, man. Let's go. Like if I want to bash somebody, I got plenty of stuff I can bash, but I'm not going to because I'm a professional and keep it that way. So let's move on to something more fun.
Yeah, well, you mentioned your girlfriend, man. What's funny about your girlfriend is that when we first became friends, and I went to your Facebook page, I noticed that we have some of the same mutual friends back home where I'm from,
Uh,
which this shouldn't be so strange because again, you're a professional wrestler and you're one of the top pros on the scene. Um,
you know, I don't feel like I am, and I appreciate you
oh,
saying that. It
but
makes
you
me feel
are.
good. But I just work hard, and I love the business very much. Much
And it
respect.
shows. It shows through your work. But when I asked you if you were dating a certain person, you're like, yeah. I'm like, it's weird because her and I came from just about near the same area. We
Uh
have a
huh.
lot of the same mutual friends. And let me tell you, I know my friends, and if your girlfriend wasn't a good person, they wouldn't be friends with her.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. She's a great
and
girl. I
Yeah,
love
but
her to death.
I just found what a small world it is that your person, your life is from where I'm from. I found that funny. Let's get back to professional wrestling though.
Sir,
Um,
let's go.
what is there an in particular person that if you know that you are wrestling against, you get excited just because that you guys it's kind of like a dance in a ring because you guys gel so well.
Yeah. Um, I've had some really good matches with Kenny Kingston, and he's a new guy out there. Big old boy. He's probably about 390, something like that. Me and him had a very good understanding when we started doing some shows with New Breed. Um, he gelled with me so well because when we had our first match, I was the New Breed heavyweight champion and the tag champions at the same time. But I basically had the belts myself for like 10 months. And so when we had our first match, I sat down with him in the back and I said, okay, Kenny, we're both big ass dudes. Okay. So there's no reason for us to be running around like a chicken with our head cut off. I said, we're big guys. We're going to work slow. I'm just re-innovating the things that were taught to me, and I'm trying to feed them onto him. We're too big to be running around. And I said, what we're going to do, as I said, I want you to think about when you was a kid. You was that little kid watching WWE, WWF, whatever it was you watched. And I want you to put yourself in those seats and looking at us in the ring. And because when you was a kid, you go, oh man, I'd have done this if I was in there. I'd have done that. That's what I want from you. I said, we're going to work 80s, 90s, WWF, WWE style. Take our time. We're going to tell a story. And whatever you want to do in there, go ahead and do it. I'm going to sell. I'll sell what you want to do back and forth, and we'll feel it out. And we only talked about a couple of things, and we go out and have amazing matches where we just beat the tar out of each other. And every time we have a match together, I say, you remember what we talked about that 12-year-old little kid? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's go. Let's go have it. Let's go make magic. And we do every time. Um, One of my favorite guys that I got to wrestle is Attila Khan.
Mm.
Now I haven't done anything really with him in SICW. Like we've kind of had a little spat of something real small at one point. But at Mid States we started a feud there, and there was some magic there, but it just didn't. We didn't keep going with it. But there's something there, I feel, because it was just like we kept getting better and better with each other. I mean, fans were popping off a test of strength, and he was like, I've never heard fans pop off a test of strength like that. I was like, well, you're in Missouri, you're at home with me, man. I'm like, they love me here in Springfield, Missouri. Um, and so Mid States is great too. I mean, I just love professional wrestling. I love performing for people. It the thing is like we don't make much money, and that's okay with me because I enjoy it so much. I give more merch and stuff away to little kids than I sell because I remember I sit back and I remember a time the Shrine Mosque in Springfield, Missouri. I went and watched WCW at the Shrine. and it was when Ron Simmons was the world champion.
Hmm.
I remember wanting a Ron Simmons shirt so bad, and they were like $40 back at the time. And I didn't have the money, and I was upset. And so whenever that hung with me forever, and whenever I started professional wrestling, I was like, I'll be damned if I let a little kid come up to me and him not have enough money for my shirt or this or that or whatever. And I held to that. If they don't have enough money, okay, well, here, what do you have? I'll take it. There you go. Or I
Yeah,
give away. I'll give away
I've
my dog.
actually, yeah, I've actually heard that about you. That you're one of the guys that you could be in front of the table with your merch, and if someone asks to take a picture, you're not saying, "Yeah, but you need to buy a T-shirt or anything." You will just take a picture with them. So yeah, I've heard those type of stuff about you. Now, I seen a match or a short clip of you with a guy at Big Texas, or I think that was his name.
Oh,
But
Big Ten.
yeah, what you guys were doing was basically chop for chop. Let me tell you, you have one incredible chop because when your hand hits that chest, and I've seen a few of your matches, you can hear it. Now, my
Yeah.
question for you though is there anybody out there that you know if they chop you, you're just not looking forward to it because you know it hurts?
Big Tex.
Yeah.
Have you seen that? Have you seen the short
Yes.
clip? I was the hired
And what
gun.
I'm going to tell the fans is go look this up because they don't call him Big Tex for nothing. This son of a gun is a big
Dude's
old
big.
boy.
No,
Yeah.
he throws it in there. But I tell everybody, throw it in there. And so it hurts, but at the same time, it's like it doesn't.
Mhm.
You know, um,
I bet
I'll
with
tell you
that
something.
adrenaline going, you really don't feel it as much
Right.
as.
And you know, when me and him had that battle, me and Tex had some good chemistry.
Mhm.
Like I turned silverback not long after me and Tex had our title match and stuff. And there was still more on the table with me and him, I felt. Like we didn't ride that through long enough. I think
Mhm.
there was still money on the table because every match just kept getting better and better and better. And that's because we love each other.
Mhm.
That's because we respect each other. And I'm like, bro, I tell a lot of people this. I don't believe in receipts. I
Mhm.
don't. Now, if I know you're being a legitimate turd,
Right.
okay, cool. But I don't believe in receipts, man, because we all sign up for this. We all know what can happen at any point. Like we're this way from death all the time.
Mhm.
Um, and I just say, hit me because I promise you that you're not going to hit me any harder than I've been hitting arena football. I've never been knocked silly. Um, I've had my lower teeth drop kicked through my lip by Austin Muitalo
Oof.
on TV, spit the blood out, kept going. I've had my nose busted open for the first time in my life on TV, you know, and just keep going. I mean, it's not ballet, guys. It's not
No.
ballet. And so people all the time are like, "Is it real? Is it real?" It's like, I'm gonna tell you, it's more real than you think. You know, again, it's not ballet. You know, accidents happen, stuff happens. I mean, and I got asked one day. They said, "Joe, you played arena football." He goes, and then he said, "And you're doing professional wrestling. What's better?" And I said, I may have played arena football for 15 years, but I said, there's no greater sport than professional wrestling, hands down. No greater sport than professional wrestling. I
Yeah.
get so much more enjoyment out of it than I did playing arena ball. There was just no place close for me to do anything, you know. I used to go watch Harley all the time. I got a good friend of mine that was very close with Harley. Pro wrestling has always been right there at the edge of me this whole time, just all the time. And it was like destined when it was ready. And I always say I didn't find pro wrestling found me
Right.
because it did find me, you know. And I respect it so much, you know. And Terry Zeller training me, you know, he's all old school, and he'd always say, mouth shut, ears open,
Mhm.
and you're never done learning. And if you think you know it all, it's time to leave, you
Yeah,
know.
and I know what you said about professional wrestling. Man, I used to be a major college football guy.
Mhm.
LSU's my team. Loved
Oh, I used to
LSU.
love LSU, bro. He had a center, Brett Helms. I used to
Mhm.
mimic him. Yeah.
Yeah, but if I had to choose between a college game and professional wrestling, it'd be professional wrestling. And the reason for myself is it was so much easier for me to lose myself within professional wrestling and be able to forget about my problems and the rest of the world, even if it
Mhm.
was just for an hour or 2 hours. And I'm not saying
Yep.
I couldn't do that with college football, but it was just easier for me in professional wrestling. Now, question for you: um, Have you ever bladed? And if not, is that something you're willing to do?
Depends on how
And
much I'm getting paid to blade.
by
I got a
chance,
pretty head, man. I mean, I don't want to look like it
man, I
doing
get
a
it,
bunch of
man.
brown. I got a pretty round head, but I know I'll bleed like a stuck hog, man. I know that's for sure because if you look at my hired gun photo from Florida, I got a really bad spot like right here.
Hmm.
And I was shaving with a new razor right before I had to catch my flight. And I totally like that bump right there. I totally cut that, like shaved it off. Blood was pouring everywhere. I couldn't get it to stop. So I had to get some turmeric out of the cabinet to get it to clot up, man. It was awful, dude. It was so bad. I had blood
Have
going
you
everywhere.
have you ever just nicked your ear while shaving? Man, that's not gonna
Yeah,
bleed for hours. Hours.
yeah. But I'd never done that to my lip that bad ever. And I didn't think it was ever going to stop because it was still trying to bleed through on the plane
Oh
ride.
yeah, yeah.
I was like, great. I was like, great. It looks like a herpes spot now. And I got to go down and all these people. I was like, great. Going
Now,
somewhere, I'm trying to get my face seen somewhere, and I got this big old sore right here on my
mm.
lip.
Now,
But
have you ever been involved in gimmick matches? And if so, if it's been more than one, are there certain gimmick matches that you just do not like doing?
I probably will never do a death match. I'll never do
Mhm.
any of that stuff. And now I would probably do street fight matches and stuff like that. That's okay. But I mean, not to knock the people that do it, but I believe that doing death matches covers up the fact that you can't work. I mean, come on, man. Like I, I get death matches is some people's forte. I get that.
Mhm.
But like I have the old school mentality, man. It
Mhm.
was instilled in me, and it's just like I'll never wrestle a woman. I won't do it. You ain't gonna pay me enough to wrestle a woman. Nothing
Right,
against the women, but when you want to talk believability,
right.
you
But
put
I
me
tell
in the
you one thing,
ring.
Joe.
It's not
Um,
doesn't.
my co-host on Tuesday nights, the legendary Hall of Famer, and yes, Bob, you're a Hall of Famer, or you're about to be, is the Cooker, Bob
Yeah,
Cook. And he agrees with you about death matches, saying that people do that, they're hiding the fact that they can't wrestle. So, as
yeah.
you said, you come from old school that's been instilled in you, and Bob is definitely old school. Now, would you ever do like a ladder match or anything like that?
I feel like I'm too fat to fly.
Ah!
I'm, I'm not a small guy. If I fall off a ladder, everything's coming with me through the ring, through the floor, and all the way into the basement. The crowd, everybody's coming. I'm a heavy dude. I fall. I feel like I fall. I fall hard, and if I fall hard, I fart. So that's when you know
Right.
I fall hard.
So, Joe, speaking of Terry Thompson wants me to ask you to
Oh
tell you the
God.
story about being chopped I think, in the nipple during training.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so funny story. Okay, Terry was always getting me. So we were doing this. I don't know. It was like a front row or something like that. That AJ Styles would did. Okay, it was some kind of where you hook the guy comes at you, hooks the leg, and he rolls you. I have really bad sensitive nips. Okay, they're always hard as a rock. Okay, the wind blows and they hurt. Okay, so we did that, and I ring burned him really bad, and I'm sitting there going and he goes, "Let me see him," and he goes, "Pow!" Right, and I'm like ah. When I do that, he goes bow on my back, and he goes, "Bet you ain't thinking about your nipples now, are you?" And I'm like, "Whoa, I love you." He was always getting me. Always.
You know
Always.
what? If I don't have known about that story, I tell you the title of this podcast would have not been "Different Faces." It would have been "Nipples and Chops."
Oh, look, man. Whew, whew. Yeah, there's sometimes I'm like I think I lost my nipple somewhere, you know. I'm like, you got me the nipple, you turd. You know, I'll tell you somebody who has some hard chops. Well, there's two more guys I'll tell you who have some hard chops. And okay. And in much respect, Bobby D at SICW, that dude can chop the hell out of you. And Johnny Dynamite from Mid States,
Mhm,
that dude has a hell of a chop. I mean, he's one of those dudes, he'll lay it into you. And it's like he don't have big hands,
mhm.
but he puts it in the right spot. It's like, dude, calm down, you know?
Yep.
You
Well,
know,
have you ever watched one of Bob Cook's matches where he's throwing a punch? One thing that he is known for is having the best punch in professional wrestling. So you should
no,
really check that out.
I'm
Um,
going to.
now, do you is there a match that you just don't like talking about because you consider it your worst match of your career? And if so, what is it about it that makes you feel like it was your worst match?
Um, I'm my worst critic,
Mm,
period. And I'll feel like something was just the dribbling craps. And I'll go back and watch it and be like, I wasn't as bad as I thought it was in the ring, right?
right,
And I'm gonna be honest with you, I've never been told that I had a bad match ever. Yeah, then that's not being self-centered.
right,
It's
right.
not being egotistical, and it's not saying that I'm not teachable or I love being critiqued. Like
Mm.
I love it. Please tell me what I'm doing wrong so I can learn. Please. I so Damian Wayne, you know who Damian Wayne
I've
is.
heard about him. Yes.
Okay, Damian Wayne. Me and him were on a really good talking level all the time. And he would see something of mine or I'd send it to him and he'd mess me he'll go, what the hell was that, kid? You need to throw it a little harder or whatever. It just out of the blue. And
Mm,
I'm like, thank you. Thank you. Much respect, because Wayne was an NWA champion. He's still out there kicking it after 50.
right.
Doing an amazing job out there. And I'm going to say this, Wayne, you still owe me a match because ICWF. He was supposed to wrestle me for the AIWF championship back then, and
Ooh.
he didn't make it to the show, so he still owes me a match, and I'm going to stick with that
Well,
until he
you know
gets.
what? You guys heard it for the first time on my podcast. I have Joe challenging Wayne. Uh, Bob Cook says that he likes you because he feels the same way when it comes to being your own worst critic.
Oh
Um,
man, I am bad.
yeah,
Because I want to do well. I want people to get their money's worth. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to go out there and be like, oh man, we had this. I've done more main events lately in the last year and a half than I ever have, and I'm like, what, less than 4 years in. But I'm like, I mean, if you go back and look, it's like main event, man, main event, main event, main event.
right.
And everybody's like, well, how come you got a title here? You've been here for so long or whatever. And I'll tell them this, you know, everything's a journey. Everybody pays their dues. I'm happy to be, I may not be on the top of the mountain, but I'm sure happy to be circling around the mountain, you know? And I also look at it, I'm an attraction.
Mhm.
I'm one of those people, I'm over without a title. I'm over without a belt. I don't have to have a championship belt
You're right.
because when I walk in, I feel like I'm the people's champion.
You're right.
So if you're working like that and you're doing a great job, yeah, I'll put a guy over. I don't care as long as it makes sense. I'm a firm believer in making it make sense.
Right.
But
And
if you want me to come in and put over your 5'2" guy that's this damn wide and
right.
can't work himself out of a wet paper bag, then I'm going to have a problem with that.
Yeah.
We're
Well,
going to have to make this match work and make it make sense.
it's funny that you mentioned when you walk out because one thing I was going to tell you is I love going to independent wrestling shows because you guys are the future of professional wrestling, but there's definitely a difference between you and a lot of guys that I've seen because when you walk out, there's definitely a presence about you, and I can tell just by watching your matches on TV.
Mhm.
And people seem to react to that presence when you walk out. So I mean, I agree with everything that you said. You're definitely attraction, and I agree. You don't need a title to be over. Now, I always ask this one question to every professional wrestler who's on the independent scene. If AEW and WWE both came to you at the same time, both offered you a contract, who would you go with?
Mm. Oof. Well, I would probably say WWE just for the simple fact is that's about everybody's end game.
Hmm.
Um, it would just depend on what structured and what they want from me. Um, I I'm not saying anything bad about AEW other than the fact of there's a lot of botchery, and it scares me that they're not being safety first.
Hmm.
Because I mean, botchery comes with lack of training.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I'm not going to say I never botched anything, but I don't know that I've ever botched anything because I don't want to hurt somebody. If I don't feel like I can do it safely, I won't do it. And
Right.
people are taking too many risks. Now, if you think about it, you see more neck injuries now than you have in the last 20 years.
Hmm.
Now, why is that? Why is that?
Yeah, it's different style of
Is it
wrestling
because
now.
people are taking? Is it because people are taking more risks, or is it because wrestling's evolved, or is it because lack of training or lack of care about? Okay, I'm going to get this move off. I'm still getting paid. Whatever happens, this guy he's got insurance. You
Mm.
know, like what is it? What's causing it? Because you should never hear about neck injuries. It was just like somebody hurting their neck. Now it's all the time. You're hearing somebody hurting their neck,
Right.
and I want to understand why this is happening.
Yeah. So my next question is: at what point does Joe Helms say, "I'm at this point in my career. I'm at this age. I think that it's time for me to step out." And when that day comes, what is going to be your next move? Because I could personally see you just because you're talking about, you know, training and being the coach of youth. And when you start talking about that, there was just this shine in your eye that I could just tell instantly. So I can really see you moving from the professional wrestler to being a trainer. Is that something that is possible?
Well, it's funny you say that because me and the girlfriend has been talking about that. And she's pumping me saying, I can see you doing that. I can see you doing this. Let's do this. Let's do your end game where you start training people or create your own promotion somewhere. And I had to reiterate with her the whole respect. Like there's no territories, but there's respectories.
Hmm.
Okay. So like you never run against somebody in the same town. You don't within a certain mile radius, you don't have a show against them. Or if you do within that, but it's kind of far away, ask permission and then ask, hey, look, is this okay? Would you like to be part of this? Would you like to help with this? Things like that. I said, there's things that you have to do as a promotion that respects the guy that's been there. Okay. That was instilled with me by watching Jason Jones and what he does. I watch these things and it sinks in. There's not territories, but there's respect that you don't work in a certain radius of another person because what happens is you water down the wrestling in that area and then people are just oversaturated with wrestling. And so why run against this guy? Because you're taking fans away from his pay if this is all this guy does for his livelihood. Don't do that. That's a crappy move, man. I'm telling you, working with Terry Zeller, Terry Thompson, and Jason is probably the best people you can work with to learn the ins and outs and in respecting things in professional wrestling. It was like the girlfriend Tanya, like she doesn't understand a whole lot of it, but I'll tell her, I'll say, you can always tell the respect or the training in someone by how they get in the ring. And she's like, how? I said, see if they wipe their feet.
Mm.
It's
That's a
not
great.
about cleaning your feet. It's not about cleaning your feet. It's about respecting the people that's been there before you get in the ring. You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah. I've heard that. I tell you what, man. I could probably go another couple hours talking to you. I
oh, dude,
really,
me too. There's just so much more, man. You
yeah.
know, like I want to say just a few more things
Go
about
ahead.
what what's kind of going on with me. I had traveled down to Paragould, Arkansas, with the girlfriend last weekend just to go watch a show. And one of the things that they always teach us, if you're just going to go watch a show, always bring your gear because you never know. You might get
Right.
booked on the spot, even though your intentions are not to work. It may happen. They may need you to fill a spot. And so we get to the show, and I want to give a shout out to Wrestling with Pride. I'm going to tell you, those guys got something good working down there. I mean, don't let them fool you. Don't let their size fool you. They can work down there. And that was who we were going to go watch. And a lot of them's good friends of hers. I didn't even get out of the truck. As soon as they saw me pull up and they saw me, they come up to the truck and was like, "Hey, we had a guy that didn't show up. Would you want to be in the battle royal?" I'm like, "I got my stuff." I said, "Who do you want, the hired gun or the silverback?" "I want the silverback." I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." And I said, "I won't even charge you because I'm already here." So it's a freebie on me. Let's go have fun. And so it completely changed that whole locker room when I was there. Everybody was excited or whatever, and they were having their little meeting. And I stopped them all and I said, "Guys, can I say something real quick?" And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." I said, "So these fans come in here to pay all this money to watch you guys work." And I said, "We need to give them the realest show possible." I said, "In this battle royal," I said, "nothing against you guys, but I am absolutely bigger than everybody here." I said, "When we're in that battle royal, you better hit me. You better make sure you lay it in. You better work me as if your life depends on it. I don't believe in receipts. We all sign for the same thing. We know what can happen. And if you don't hit me like your life depends on it, I'm gonna make you feel it." And they were all just like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, we talk about this all the time." And I'm like, "Please feel comfortable with me in there and do whatever you want to do, you know." And I had an amazing time in that battle royal. And after we were done, and that was all I did. I was in the back sitting there minding my own business, and this guy walks up to me and he says, "Hey, I'm such and such from OVW." He goes, "I would love for you to be back here next weekend. I want you to work in front of Tony Gunn." He said, you just have to be in front of him because I guess what people see, I don't see because I just try to perform." And he goes, "You would be perfect for OVW." And I was like, "I've been told that a lot, but you guys are like 8 hours away from my house. A lot of times you do shows on Thursdays. I'm at work on Thursdays."
Right.
But, but I was like, "I'll come back down if you really want me down." So they pulled their money together to bring me down tomorrow. So I get an opportunity to work with him being there and actually get some eyes on me from a bigger company. So it's kind of exciting. Um, so and it's just like I was excited whenever I was in Tampa and Midian showed up and he watched me and my best friend a toes match, and we ended up having match of the night as a dark match. And Super Crazy was there. There was a bunch of guys from NWA Power there, and we had match of the night over all of them on a match that wasn't even scheduled or wasn't even going to happen. We just went to the back and said, "You know what? Since this happened, we're just going to put this together and we're going to have match of the night." And we just hit them with old school wrestling. I mean, a headlock takeover. These people were popping for a headlock takeover like they'd never seen it before. And I'm like, "What?" Because we were talking about it after the show, and I was like, "We hit them with basic stuff from training, and they were losing their mind. Like, I don't even understand." So I guess their version of wrestling down there and where I'm at from the Midwest, being taught old school, that's where it's at, dude. Old school wrestling. That's where it came from. That's where it started. And it's almost like a mixture now of maybe a little old school and then maybe a little freestyle. I, I don't know,
Well,
but I feel like
I think
you
you
can
don't
tell
give
more.
yourself enough credit though, Joe, because I think that you could take someone and they do the old style and the fans will be bored with them because they just don't have that presence, that it factor, versus you who will do that old style as well, but they're cheering, as you said, because you have that it factor about you. You demand. eyes without having to demand eyes, if you know what I'm saying.
I've been told that a lot. The airport look,
Yeah,
because I know when I walk in everywhere, and it's everywhere. It's not even just the show.
right,
It's everywhere. But I will say what was funny was I went to the back and I was putting my hired gun gear on, and I was oiling up and everything, so I could get all looking like all massive and stuff. And the Cuban assassin was there, and I hadn't seen him since I was in Cauliflower Alley a couple years ago, and we had talked back then. And we had talked before the show, and he's like, "Oh man, good to see you." And I was happy that he remembered me. I guess I'm one of those people that's hard to not remember,
right.
um, because like me and Haku and Barbarian, we're all buddies too. And every time I see him, we just talk.
Right.
And I come out the back, and I had my hat on, and I'm walking out, I'm all pumped up and walking out, just having my snarl look on my face. Literally everybody, fans, everyone, people at the bar stopped and turned and looked at me. Even the Cuban assassin was looking down doing something. He stopped what he was doing and looked up at me and just stared at me the whole time I walked around the ring just to go over to my table. And I was like, okay, I got everybody's attention. And then not to mention the fact where, we got in the ring and I hit my buddy a toe with a drop kick up here, and they were like, oh my gosh. And then the cartwheel into the discus clothesline, and they were like cheering off of that, going, did he just do a cartwheel? I'm dubbed 310 pounds, man, and I can move like a lightweight, dude. I'll fly out of
Yeah,
the ring,
I
I'll fly off the
I
top rope.
I
I'll
see you do
surprise
that
you. I'll
cartwheel.
surprise you,
I see you do that the cartwheel in the match I was watching. It was you against the masked um showstopper, something like that. The
Mm,
mask showman, I think it is.
I'm not sure.
About 3 years ago, it was a SICW match.
Uh,
Um, and you did that cartwheel clothesline, and
uh,
I'm like, I told my wife, she was reading. She's not a big wrestling fan. I said, "Wait, you got to see this. Did you see this guy the size of he is do a cartwheel in that clothesline? That was great, absolutely great. So yeah, you can move on your feet for being such a big guy.
you know how that developed? It's pretty funny. I was playing around in the training ring down at Mid States one night, and Terry was down there, and Jason was down there, and I just did a cartwheel in the ring, and it was so quiet you could hear a pin drop when I did it. And Terry goes, "Do that again." And I said, "Do what?" He goes, "Do that cartwheel again." And I was like, "Okay." So I did another one, real nice and perfect, and he goes, "Jason, look at this. Gary, look at this." And I was like, I was kind of getting shy. I was like that's a cartwheel. And so I did it, and they were like, huh. And then they were like, oh, you should work that into something. And my gear started turning. And I was like, how can I make this into something? And I thought, I can turn it into a discus lariat. When I'm like trucking across the ring, like I'm gonna do a big splash, I hit this cartwheel, turn around, and just level you with that, centrifugal force of the whole coming around from that, wham, just laying you into it. And so it just become a thing. And it's kind of like an homage to Bam Bam Bigelow,
Mhm.
in a way. A lot of people say, "Oh, you look like Bam Bam Bigelow," back when I was a kid, you know. And
And
so,
my wife, the first thing my wife said about you is she thought you looked something similar to Samoa Joe. Is what
oh
she said.
yeah, I get that. I've gotten Batista. I guess I look like a mix. I also look like I guess the lead singer of was it Stained or something,
Oh
or one of
yeah,
the
yeah.
bands.
There's
I got out of the truck the other day. Like, "Hey, you look just like that dude." I was like, man, if I had $1 for every time I heard that. I said, I
right,
feel like I
right.
just look like a big old gorilla is what I look like. You know?
Well, Joe, my friend, we've been on for an hour and a half. Thank you for coming on. Look, the
Anytime.
best thing, the best thing that has come out of some non-perishable stuff was that you and I meeting, and you're such a great human being. You really are.
Uh,
You're
man,
humbled,
I try to be.
and you are so kind. You are always welcome on this podcast, man. Just shoot me. Look, you whatever night,
Well,
anytime you want to be on, just say, "Okay, I want to be on tonight." We'll make it work.
well, you know, we're going to be at Fan Fest together, so we're
Yes,
going to have to get in some trouble. I've
absolutely.
already told the missus, already told the missus. So I still got to get up there and get my room for the 16th and 17th. So I will be at Fan Fest wrestling for SICW, and you done told me we have to get together and have dinner. So I'm looking forward to
Yes,
that.
absolutely. You got my
And
number.
I think Mr. Zeller's going to be there too.
Nice.
I'm almost positive. So if he is, maybe together and have
Yes,
a good time. He's a hoot,
absolutely.
dude. Like he's a hoot. He'll tell you the story about where I about crapped my pants on the way back from training one night.
Well, I'm
He
looking
said,
forward to all of that, man.
yeah. So
And I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. I know we could talk before then because, and that's what I was telling people who watch this. It's almost like there was just this connection where you and I almost talk damn near every day now. So
almost every day.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, you're a great person, man, and I'm proud to be able to call you my friend. I really am.
So
But
thank you.
guys, don't forget that Monday at 7:30 we can be doing the recap of WrestleMania. There will be no recap of SmackDown tonight just because of WrestleMania on Saturday and Sunday. Um, so I'm looking forward to WrestleMania and seeing what happened. But subscribe and don't forget to check us out for our recap on Monday at 7:30 with Mark.
Yeah.
So I thought you were going to say something, but anyway, Joe,
Yeah.
quick, sure.
One last thing. Uh, TNR Wrestling tomorrow night, Leechville, Arkansas. I want to do a shout out to those great individuals out there that run that show. Hey, they're great people down there. You know, Wrestling with Pride, great people, man. They took me in. We had a great time. Great people, man. Don't overlook them. Go see them.
Absolutely. You can never have too much wrestling in your life. But until then, guys, enjoy WrestleMania Saturday and Sunday, and we'll see you on Monday. Until then, ring the damn bell. Joe, thank you again.
Thank you.